commissions too. Do you think that's gonna have any bearing on me sitting on anything else, planning commission, airport commission? It sounds like this is 100% unique to the library.
Yeah, and what you'd have to do is to look at the language for the specific commissions, but ours, it has very specific language and specific guidance from the Attorney General's office. And if you would like a copy of that guidance, I can certainly share it with you. Yes, sir.
If another council person sits in place of the mayor on the library board, are they a voting member then, or not?
Yeah, they're a member of the board, but it's only one representative
Right.
from the council.
Right. One representative.
Yeah. Now, the piece that's especially important for tonight is chapter 134.11. And 134.11 talks about the organization of the board and the duties. And I'm going to focus on subdivision 2, which is duties. And, you know, of course, when the library board is established, they establish bylaws and regulations. And the piece that's especially important here is that it shall have exclusive control of the expenditure of all money collected or placed to the credit of the library fund, of interest earned on all money collected or placed to the credit of the library fund, of the construction of library buildings, and of the grounds, rooms, and buildings provided for library purposes. Then it goes on to say that all money received for the library shall be paid into the city or county treasury, credited to the library fund, kept separate from other money of the city or county, and paid out only upon approval by the board. And then it goes on to say that the library board may lease rooms for library use. The library board is responsible for appointing a qualified library director and other staff as necessary, establish the compensation of employees, remove any of them for cause, and with the approval of the council or the board of county commissioners, the library board may purchase grounds and erect a library building thereon. So, I think part of the issue that we have here, and this is always a tug and pull, is that the money, the city has levy authority, the library board does not. The library system does not have levy authority. So levy authority is the responsibility of the city or county. The funds that are gathered from the levy based upon a budget that is agreed upon between the library board and the city or county is then those funds are put into the library fund, and the library board is responsible for the decisions relating to that funding. So we have a situation here where I think it would be very useful for me to hear a chronology as to what has happened, because I'm hearing different stories as to the chronology. And we have funds that have been raised or promises that are made by the community to support a library building. We have the issue of the grant. We have the issue that land has supposedly been purchased or is in the process of being purchased and now is not. We have the issue of this building, which is very difficult to remodel, being landlocked, and the whole issue of parking. And then we've got other buildings that have issues with remodeling. So I need to understand how the pieces fit together, but the bottom line is decisions relating to buildings are a joint decision. And in the statute, bypassing the library board is really being contrary to the language of the statute. But the library board is also accountable to the city because the funds are put into the library general fund and are part of the treasury of the city, but they are allocated for library-related materials and for the collection and for the building. So I'd like to perhaps have you give some of the background on what's been happening with the buildings, because I think that would tie in with your discussion with the architect. and then I'd like to hear from the library board. Because I think one of the issues right now is that the library board is feeling out of the loop for the discussion, and is that contrary to the intent of the language in the statute? And let's heal some wounds so that the library doesn't suffer from this tension that's occurring right now. Does that make sense to all of you?
Sure.
Because I'm trying to be very neutral in this process. My job is to listen to everyone, tell you how it fits within the statutes, indicate the areas that are gray, and then maybe get some of the conversation going that may be missing from what's been occurring fairly recently, so that the library board feels more a part of the discussion, and in turn, that the city understands the roles of both sides.
Where do we start? How about we start with Susan? She understands the complete history of this more than I do.
Susan's not really the board, but
All right, so Dan or Jim, care to start here?
Well, I'm not sure how far back we want to go, and I think that's why, Susan, you would be the better spokesperson,
Okay.
because you transcend the different board members as well.
1999, with the first space assessment study done, preliminary draft in 2000, done by an architectural firm in Ron McGriff, who did space needs assessment studies. We paid part of it, Selco paid part of it. It was a grant, I believe. Total bill was $10,000. We had TCI out of La Crosse as the architectural firm, mostly because they also had in-house electrical, structural, mechanical engineers that could look at the building. Final draft of that proposal was done in 2002. In between times, we had looked at possible sites in town for a building. Anywhere from the old theater, which is now Waxland's extension of the plumbing building. I forget some of the other sites we looked at. SEMCAC. The preliminary numbers came through that we were going to need around 7,000 to 10,000, and the SEMCAC building was at 11,000. It was in a good downtown location, which we liked. They also were short on space and talking of moving at the time, so that was a building we had looked at. Anyway, those were all part of the initial study, and the pros and cons for each location. We did a preliminary, and most of it was in mind that we were going to stay married to City Hall, mostly because it's anywhere from $12,000 to $16,000 a year that the library that we share together services that otherwise would be added to the library budget separately. So we have been symbiotic since '94. It's worked out well with pieces of equipment, heat, light, custodial, garbage, everything shared. The conclusions at that time were that this building totally gutted and redone and added on 60 feet into, which was another problem. It could have been unsurmounted. It was into the park, which by this time had been declared part of the Veterans Memorial Park. It would go past the flagpole for the area that we needed. It was $200,000 short less than building a total new structure somewhere else.